Hello, quick audio and visual check to make sure everything's working okay. As ever, just pop a comment in the live chat to let me know you can hear this and you can see me. Hello, because I can't see me because I've broken the screen on my video camera, so I'm staring at what looks like a spider's web at the side of my camera tonight. So let's hope it's all working. And whilst you're thinking about that, should there be music over the countdown, or is silence really golden? Anyway, see you at the half hour. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to In Studio Live, the 51st edition. This is week 47 since we started doing all this last year. Hard to believe it was intended as a sort of one-off, something I might just do occasionally, and it's happened every week since. Anyway, here we are. Welcome to the feedback show, and let's hope I can keep the entire show together tonight after losing sound last live stream and big disaster yesterday. I dropped my video camera, so the little monitor on there, which I use to frame everything up and so that I can see what I look like on screen and things like that, is now broken and looks like a spider's web. And no picture on there. Thankfully, it still appears to be working, still appears to be broadcasting, so we are still here. Right, question of the night at the moment is music or no music when we do the countdown. So far, I've had two responses in the live chat, one saying no music and the other saying, oh, music would be nice. So do let me know in the chat what you think, and I'm not promising music, I'm not promising silence either, but it would be interesting to hear your opinions, folks. Right, anyway, let's get on with the show, shall we? Let's talk about what we're doing tonight. Well, first of all, let me say, if you are watching the show, do say hi in the chat. I like to sort of wave and greet everyone. I think I have been greeting most of the names I've seen, so I've just seen another one pop up. Adam, hi Adam, nice you can join us. And Richard, oh, vote for music from Richard. You obviously haven't heard my choice of music recently, Richard, have you? Right, so nice to see you all there. Now, if you are new to the show, then do me a big favor, go and hit the subscribe button and hit that little bell notification so you get notified when new videos and new live streams all happen on the channel. And there's an extra reason why I want you to all subscribe, and I'll talk about that a little bit later on. But if you're watching this on the replays, I know some people do, just drop me a comment in the comments field so that I know you've watched it. That's a bit of an encouragement to me, and also helps with my visibility on YouTube. And of course, hit the like button. At the moment, we've only 4 likes. It just went up to 4. So keep doing that, folks. Again, that helps my visibility. So if you just go and do that, that will help. And those of you who have been sharing links to the show, thank you ever so much. You might want to do that just a little bit more in the coming weeks. I'll explain later the reason why. Now, if you don't know, these are twice weekly shows. Sundays are tutorial focused and Q&A focused. I will do a little bit of Q&A on the Wednesday nights, but the Wednesdays are predominantly to do with feedback on your images. And we're getting several asking for music during that countdown now. So if you don't know what's going on, it's the debate, should we or shouldn't we have music as we wait for the show to start. Right, in case you don't know, the shows do stay on YouTube for a while, so if you do miss a show, you can catch up on the replays. The aim is that eventually they'll get cut down and be replaced with highlights, and the best bits go, the full thing goes into my academy, and just highlights go onto YouTube across my 3 channels. So at the moment, it's taken me a while to do the cut downs and to do the highlights, but I am getting on to that. I have a Facebook group. Here's the link to it, and that's very much associated with the live stream. The two go together. It's where we carry on the conversation during the week. It's where I get a lot of the photos from for the feedback show. Place where you can share your photos, you can ask questions. Sometimes I'll give feedback on the Facebook group, sometimes on the show, sometimes on both for particular images. And I do encourage you to provide feedback on each other's shots. I know people are starting to do that, and that's great to see. I just want to encourage you a little bit more to do that. And it's where we have photo challenges. At the moment, we're I was going to say coming to the end, maybe not to the end of the bingo challenge. I can announce a winner tonight, but the challenge goes on because it's not about who could first complete their bingo card. The challenge is about getting you out with your camera, getting you thinking about composition, getting you thinking about techniques with your cameras, how to improve everything that you're doing on there. And that's going to go on. And I've posted all the possible topics which could have come up on your card on there. So if you want to carry on submitting images for that, even though you filled your card in, you can do. I'll be announcing who the winner of that challenge is later, but that's the sort of thing we do on the Facebook group. And I've got at least 2 other challenges planned for later in the year. One much later in the year. I can tell you now, I've got a very special challenge planned for Advent. So you've got to wait till December for that one, but I'm already thinking about how that one's going to work. And I've got at least one more before then. So there's plenty of things going to be happening in there. So do join that if you're not already. If you find the shows helpful and you want to financially contribute to keeping them going, because it does cost money to put these on, especially when I break my camera and I've got to get it repaired. But if you do feel you want to contribute financially, and I know some of you have, and I am incredibly grateful for those people who have. And I always feel a little bit awkward mentioning this each week, and really no obligation to anybody to give money. And I would rather people just enjoy the shows than feel pressure that I've got to give. So just watch the show. But if you do want to, the link is here. It's buymeacom.com/Ian Butty. It's basically buy me a coffee, and it's just a way you can say thank you with a bit of money. And I like to say thank you in return. And tonight's cup of tea was bought by Alison Backen. Don't know whether you're watching, Alison. She dips in occasionally. So if you do see this, Alison, cheers. Thanks for the cuppa. And those who have helped and you've not seen your name on the cuppa, it might be because you missed the show. For example, I know a couple of people weren't watching on the shows when their name appeared. C'est la vie. Or it might be I've just not got to you yet. There's quite a list to get through before, once I've got down to the bottom of the list, I'll start going back at the top again. Anyway, enough of that. We've got a newsletter as well. The link's down below in the description if you want that. So what have we got on the show tonight? Let's get on properly. Well, we've got a best of 2020, 10 best images from Gary Platt to have a look at. I've got a little slideshow of that, and then I'll provide a bit of feedback on those. I'm going to announce the Bingo Challenge winner. It should be possible for you to work out who it is from the Facebook group on there. I think it's fairly obvious, but I will do the formal announcement and talk a little bit about that. And I'm going to tell you about this giveaway that's coming up. Rather special one about it. And I'll be going through not only the images you've emailed to me for feedback, but the Facebook posted ones as well. And I've got a 2-minute Lightroom tip for you. This is part 2 of the 2-parter that I started last week, all about DNG files and converting your images to DNG. So that I will play in later. And of course the live Q&A. I've got lots of questions on the live Q&A, not for today, but over the coming weeks. And I'm trying to keep track of them with a document on the Facebook group. So if you've got questions, you can email them to me, you can put them in the live chat during the shows, you can put them in comments if you're watching on the replay. You can go to the Facebook group and just edit that document and add your question in there, because I'm trying to keep as my definitive list of questions I need to answer in the future. So that's there to have a look back. So, feedback show. As I say, this is priority is given to the images which are emailed to me at feedback@ians-studio.co.uk. Why do I give priority to those? Because I've got the highest resolution, I can check your focus, I've generally got your shooting data, so I can give better feedback about things that you got right, things which you may want to change based on the settings that you were using at the time. So I can really delve into it a lot better on that. So those I give priority to. So tell you what, let's start with those. I'll go and find Lightroom and let's have a look at those images for tonight. So these were the ones which were emailed through to me during the week. So Bernard, I think Bernard tends to watch on replay. So let's start with Bernard's image. Now this was one of the sunset ones, which is one of the themes I've set on the Facebook group. And let's see the data on here. It was taken with, well, the equivalent of 300mm lens on a Panasonic compact camera, DMC TZ7. I think that's compact. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is on there. Let's have a look at this full screen. And it's a sunset with a lighthouse and a basically seascape. Well, let me just zoom in on the lighthouse. Right, okay, that's looking very slightly soft on there. Let's have a look at the shooting data on this. Right, yeah, I think there might be a little bit of camera shake on there, Bernard. So if I go full screen, I can point out what I mean on here. If we look at your settings here, you're shooting at 125th of a second. Now, your focal length was 49.2, but when you convert that to 35mm equivalent, that is the equivalent of a 300mm lens. Now, to hold a 300mm lens steady, handheld, you need to be shooting at least a 300th of a second. So I suspect that might be the cause of the slight softness that's in this image. So try and think about, if you're zooming right in, you really want to get a fast shutter speed on there. Now, I know it's difficult to see what that is on these little compact cameras. You can usually see it through the viewfinder. You can probably get it on display. Now, you can definitely get it on display with the image review. It usually comes up when you've got the histogram on there and that sort of data. So have a look at that and try and keep your shutter speed high when you're shooting with a camera like that. But other than that, I think composition's nice. I like the, actually looking at the aspect ratio on that, I'm wondering whether that actually might be a camera phone. I'm not sure now with that. No, it can't be. It's a DMC TZ7. That's definitely a compact, but it's shot in landscape mode on there. I don't know whether you were trying to get the silhouette effect or not. If you were, it's worked well. I would be tempted just to play around with the blacks just a little bit, just to try and darken that up to make it a bit more silhouette-y, and it gives it a bit more contrast as well on the image. But that's about all I would do on that. Nice shot. I suspect it's been edited to enhance the orange on there, which is exactly what you need to do with sunset shots. So well done on that. Right, moving on. Let's have a look what this is. Yeah, these are 3 from Gary Platt. So let's look at these in turn. Judging from the mist on this, I would say this is a sunrise rather than a sunset over the hills. rather like this one. It's a little bit deceptive in terms of the perspective on it, in that the trees look a lot closer and look quite small on there. A nice bit of light in the foreground, so we've got this taking us through the image. We've got an item in the foreground to look at. We've got our mid-ground interest here, and the background interest of the hills and the sun flare on there. Nice black and white conversion. Let's have a look at the shooting data and see what you did with it. Shot at f/22, which is fairly standard for landscape shots, 100th of a second, and you were at 40mm on there. 5D Mark II, so that's full frame anyway, so you're plenty fast enough for hand holding, as we've said. Works nicely. Good black and white conversion. Now, the one thing I'm wondering about with this is I just wonder about a crop. I think it can afford to just very slightly crop in, maybe make it that 16:9, yeah, which means I can then afford to bring that out a little bit there. Yeah, I think a true landscape, a true widescreen aspect ratio on that just helps it a little bit. I didn't want to chop the sunburst effect off, but I like the idea. The little bit of sky above it, I don't think was adding much to the image on there. So it's just a slight tightening up of it is what I would do with that. How sharp is it? Pretty sharp, but I think it might benefit from just a touch more clarity. I mean, I like my images to have that little bit of contrast and bite to them on there. But yeah, nice shot. So what else did Gary send me? Yeah, this is a lovely image. Very nice low-key sort of shot with the sunset, it looks like. Nice S shape in the road and lead in to it on there. That works nicely. Third line on there. Playing around with the white balance just a little bit. I think it's a little bit on the blue side. I'd be tempted to just raise the white balance slightly. Let's go so you can see a little bit clearer on there. So I would just bring it up a little bit because it actually does open up the shadows just fractionally on the road. I don't want to do my usual thing of, oh, let's get some light in those shadows, because I don't think it needs it. I think that low-key effect works really nicely with it, but just making it that, I would go slightly more orange with it, but it's a personal preference with it on there. So just comparing the two, that's before and that's after. I don't know whether you changed the white balance yourself on this, Gary, but one thing just to be aware of, let's actually have a look what you had the white balance set to on it. Will it show on there? Not telling me. What about in the develop module? No, because it's a JPEG, so I can't see what you've done with it. Oh, didn't mean that. Go back to there. Right. Actually, I'll just see whether there are any comments. Right. Right. Yeah, no, nothing of relevance on the chat. Right, okay. Yeah, I would just do that on it. Another subtle one, I recognise this. This is the view from Mamtor over Castleton and the cement works. This classic view of the mist there. Now, again, this one, I really like the subtle shades on this and the very subtle lack of contrast. And that is something I always struggle to get. I have a natural tendency to add contrast, if this was one of my images, I would have ended up doing something like that with it. Maybe bring the highlights down and the exposure down. So I'd have ended up with something like that probably. And to be honest, what you've got is much better than I would have achieved on there. I like the long thin panorama on it. I like the balance of the sun in the sky in the top left quadrant, balanced with the cement works in the bottom right quadrant on there. That works nicely. And I'm just going to do a reset, make sure my settings aren't on there. And let's have a look at the settings. I haven't got any shooting data on this one, so I can't comment about that. Shame. Anything else? No. Let's go back to the grid. And Richard sent me a couple of images, an edited version of them and the originals. So let's have a look at the edited version first. A lone tree in the snow. And this is lovely and sharp. On there, really like that. Nice choice of subject. And this is one of the times where you can center your subject because of the symmetry on either side of it. The centering works with it on that. Let's have a look at the shooting data with it. Right, ISO 100, 100th of a second. Yeah, he's increased the ISO, increased the exposure bias rather by 1 stop because it's a snowy scene, and we've seen how those will get underexposed if we're not careful on it. So that's generally working well. Focal length 70mm, so definitely in the range for hand holding. So nice edit on there. I like the black and white. So let's have a look at the original shot and just compare. So here we go. This is the original, and I see you've either edited out or cleaned up the sections on the left hand side. Yeah, we can see how those have gone. And oh, too far. No. And right, I hadn't spotted it, but there's a bit of a splodge around there, which probably accounts for what's been going on. I'm not quite sure why you've needed to paint out in that area with it. It's a little bit strange. I don't dislike how it comes up on that side, so I would be tempted to have kept that like that over in that corner with it. And yeah, that's, I mean, you've done well with the camera. So I'm not going to re-edit it because what you've got there, I can see you've done lens corrections on it, how that comes in and out. So a good edit. Now here we've got right, another pair of shots. That's the edited version and the original. Now here I would edit it differently, Richard. If I go to the original, I'll show you what I would do on this one. So right, what I would do with it, first of all, lens corrections, get those all in there on that, and then oh, it didn't find the lens for the lens corrections. Let's have a look what the data is on it. 70 to 200, it should find that. So lens profile, Canon. Yeah, okay, it's got it now. Right, I don't think the colour in this is adding much to it. I like the brightness to it. Let's see what's actually blown out. There's very little blown out. There's just a little bit of almost specular highlights. It's not, it's the sky coming through there. I like the brighter version than your edit. I would probably go with a black and white, and with that I would go, I'd increase my clarity. I'd probably even try pushing that exposure up a little bit for the midtones. And here's a little trick for you. One of the things I'm doing here, as I bring up the exposure, I know I'm losing detail in the highlights, but I also know that that detail's there to start with. So I'm doing the exposure, just looking at my midtones to get those where I want them. And then I can dial back those highlights that where I'm losing detail on there. So that's back to what it was. Maybe just a hint back on there. I would also possibly just bring the black point down very slightly and maybe try the contrast a little bit. So I would end up with something probably looking like that, going monochrome with it. And I think that's my preferred edit. Let me go full screen so you can see, folks. And see that's your edit. That's my edit. And that was the original. My edit, original, my edit, Richard's edit. I think yours is a little bit muddy on there, but you've got a little bit more detail in there. I'm just wondering whether I can bring that back with a tone curve on here and just try bringing that detail in there and then push that up slightly on the tone curve. Try and bring that back. How's that looking compared to yours? Yeah, I'm happy with the amount of detail I've now got in the sky. I just want to compare that to before I did the tone curve. So before, after. Yeah, before, after. I think, yeah, that little bit of bringing the tone curve down, just that fraction, I think is what it needs. So that's what I would do with those images. So let's go back to the grid view. And what else have I got by email? Right, one from Anthony. I don't know whether you're watching tonight. I've not seen you in the chat yet, but hopefully you'll get this one on replay. Night shot of a pub. A couple of things on this. Let's look at the settings first of all. Now, this was a phone shot by the looks of it. Now you picked the right time of day for it because we've got the fading daylight on the blue sky. The building's a little underexposed because there's no artificial light on there. So I would be tempted to try and bring that up in post-production. But before I do that, I'd want to correct the vertical. So transform, and let's try auto on there. Yep, that's sufficient for it, right. Yeah, it's slightly soft. Again, that's because it's a phone photo. Not a lot we can do about that, I'm afraid. Phone photos, particularly in low light, you get this sort of blotchy. Can you see the blotch? Let me go full screen. You see the blotchiness on the sign there? That's all to do with it being a phone photo. So I come out of there. So what am I going to do with it? I'm going to just try and bring the light back into the shadow areas. I just bring the shadows up on there, bring the highlights down a little bit, and then maybe play with the exposure. I think it needs a bit of a sort of clarity boost. If you were doing this on the phone and you're using Snapseed, that would be the equivalent of structure on there. All these sort of tools would work. Now, the other thing I would say, Anthony, about this is just watch where you stand. You've got this car poking in at the bottom here. And I'm pretty sure you could have lost that by just taking a couple of paces to the left. In fact, I'm almost absolutely certain you could do that because your wife also submitted a photo of this pub and it looks like she took it from 2 paces over to the left, which doesn't have the car in there. I'll come to that photo later and we can compare the two on there. But that's the sort of thing I would do. I think it needs a bit of contrast to it as well. Touch up on the exposure. And I would do something like that. So before and after. That's the sort of thing I would do with it. You can do the same sort of things on a phone with the use of Snapseed, or get it into the likes of Photoshop Elements, and do that. But one of the things I would try and encourage you to do, Anthony, I know you had a bridge camera at one point. I'm assuming you've still got your bridge camera. I'd encourage you to shoot more with your bridge camera than with your phone, because you're going to get better quality images out of there. And whilst they may be fine for small screens, when you start looking at them in detail, and as you progress in your photography journey, you'll come back to these and you'll think, oh, I just wish I'd done that with a better camera. Maybe not in the immediate future, but 5 years' time, you may find that to be the case. So moving on, I think that's all the ones from the email folders. I've done all of those. So let's have a look what's been going on in chat while I've been on here. Right. Richard said cleaning. So he wondered if the trees that I said he'd changed were distracting. No, I don't think they are at all. So I would leave them as they are on there, on that. So back over to here. So nothing new in Q&A, but if you have got questions, stick them in the chat. I'll try and deal with them as we go through on there, or as I've said before, you can email them to me at contactme@ians-studio.co.uk. Right, let's look at some top 10 images on there. Oh, we've got an apology from David, who says, sorry I'm late. Well, slap wrists, David, you can catch the beginning on replay. Right, let's get a move on. I gave people a challenge to find their top 10 images from last year. A few people have taken me up on it. This is the last one I've got. If anybody else wants to have a go, then do let me have the images at feedback@ians-studio.co.uk, and I can share your images next week on there. This time it's Gary Platt's images, and let me just do the slideshow and then I'll talk about them. So here we go. And we're back. Yeah, lovely images there, Gary, as ever. Some of which we have seen during the year on the Facebook group and in the live stream. You seem to have a thing about trees. Lots of trees in there, and some really stand out. I want to comment again about this hands shot and the little slideshow that you presented going back quite a while now in the stream. That I thought it was a stunning set, and this was a really interesting abstract image from this warehouse of X-shop window dummies for the Doctor Who fans on Autumn Factory. Really nice and nice tone. Let's have a look at the things. I think one thing that strikes me about this set is they're almost all monochrome except one, which is this one. I love the mistiness on here. I think we've looked at this one before. I would be tempted to try and find an angle where the sun wasn't bang in the middle of the shot with it, but it does work, and that's a nitpick more than anything else on that. Nice atmospheric look to the images. I love the mistiness on there. This we've looked at before, the clump of trees on the hill and the misty effect on there. There's a couple that sort of stand out to me for varying reasons. I was struck by this one, but not for the reason you might think. I'll be honest with you, I don't like the big area of blown out sky on there, and that does kind of spoil it a bit for me. But when I looked at it, I was trying to work out initially why the statue has two shadows. And then I realised it's an indentation in the sand, not an additional shadow on there with it. My thoughts on this would be, I'd have been tempted to try and reduce that sky and that blown out bit of sky on there, and maybe I would go with something like that sort of composition for me, because I think the sky is just a little bit too blown out on it. So that would be my suggestion with that, which keeps us with a rule of thirds on it. Just a thought on that. And one that I don't want to make any changes at all to is this one. What a fantastic snow scene, well edited on there. Obviously, nearly a full stop exposure bias on there, as we keep talking about. Just well produced shot on there. I love the sort of slight S shape that draws you through the image with it. And although the tree, this is an odd one, although the tree is central or just slightly off, it doesn't feel like it, simply because it's near in the distance. It's going off into the distance. It just has this optical illusion where it feels more over to the right than it actually is, and it works well on there. I just want to have a look at this one. So it's the texture of a root on there. Yeah, interesting shot. Thank you anyway for sharing them with us, Gary. Nice to see them. Oh, just spotted. Yeah, and again, the sun behind and the shadows coming towards, I think does work nicely with these. And I think this one works well because you've managed to hide the sun more or less behind the trees, just a little bit peeking through, but that gives these shadows radiating out from the tree on there. So well done. Right. What have we got in chat? Anything on you? Right. So we've got, Anthony's just joined us. Anthony, you might want to go back later and watch the bits before this point, because I did go through your image with some suggestions on there. I'll be getting to Rebecca's a little bit later on that. As I say, thank you, Gary, for those. Snumbers one saying, nice piece of music to accompany the slideshow. Well, that's good to know, because those bits of music that I use on the slideshows, if we do have music on the countdown, as there is the debate on it, again, let me have your thoughts on this as you're watching. Then it will almost certainly be the Dano Songs ones that I use for the slideshows. I would just put them together because I've got the license to use that on there. Right, let's carry on. Yeah, I've just been looking at the chat on there. So let's talk about the bingo challenge. I was meant to do the drum roll, but there you go. We have a winner of the bingo challenge. The winner is Laura McFarlane. Well done, Laura, getting your 25th image in at 1 minute past midnight. You were keen, really keen to get that one done on time. So yeah. You were obviously the winner. I just had to go through the slideshows and make sure on there. So well done. Very close behind, a close runner-up is Peter Stanford, who got his 25th image in at 4 a.m. on the 25th day. What the hell are you doing up at 4 a.m. in the morning, Peter? And also completed Peter Saltiel, who finished his on that same day. So 3 people finished on the same day. Well done to you. Well done to those of you who've almost finished. I noticed John Kiss is 1 image short. I just checked with him, I hadn't missed it, and he hasn't done his final image yet on there. Richard, you were keeping level pegging with Laura until towards the end. According to my reckoning, there's 3 squares you haven't filled in, or have I missed something somewhere on your card? You're the other one I needed to check. Now, there are still prize points to be won on there, because anyone who completes their card before the end of January, to the end of the 31st, will get 5 prize points. I'll explain what the prize points are used for in a while. Remember, the rules still apply. The photos have to have been taken this year, and they have to be on unique days. So you can't have 2 images from the same day on there. But if you manage to complete your card by the end of the year, you'll get 5 prize points. And even if you can't complete it by the end of January, there's 2 or 3, I can't remember which, prize points for the end of February, 1 for the end of March. So it is worth doing it. Not that 1 prize point will get you much, but that you can save it up for the future. I've now also published the full list of what the squares could have been on your cards. There were 50-odd different topics on there. If you have a look on the Facebook group, you'll find it there. And I would encourage you, even if you've finished your card, to keep shooting. Use this to inspire you and encourage you to go out with your camera, because that's how you will. That's how you'll improve with your photography. Just keep shooting, folks. So here's the standing on the points scale in no particular order. Peter Stanford, you've now got 9 prize points. You got 4 for being the first person to complete the corners and 5 for finishing your card in January. Peter Saltiel has got 20 points. He got the middle column, top and bottom rows, and he had a January finish. Richard Lovelock is on 5 for getting the vertical, the middle column. Laura is on 32. She got both diagonals, she got the full house, and of course she's finished in January. So that's 32 prize points. Now, what can these prize points get you? Well, here we go. if you can spend 5 points to have a personalized critique of your, you have a 5-image review by spending 6 prize points. I'll just do that as I review images. A 10-image review will cost you 10 prize points. A 20-image review will cost you 18 prize points on there. So if you're remote and you want me to provide feedback on a sort of mini portfolio, that's what you can spend your prize points on. Or if you want a little bit more than that, you can have a 30-minute one-to-one mentoring call, basically a Zoom call with me, just to talk about your photography, perhaps set some goals for you and try and give you a few things to encourage you on your way with your photography. And for that, that's 20 prize credits or prize points. And for 2 of those calls, so you get one to set some goals and then we go back and review them a few weeks later, that would cost you 35 prize credits. So some of you are getting there where you could cash in your credits. There are more credits to be earned as the year goes on. I've got more coming up. For those of you who are local, and a few of you are, I know, if you want to spend 30 prize credits, you can use my studio for 2 hours. This does not include the cost of any models you might want to use on there. 3 hours mentored shoot with me working alongside you, encouraging you, will cost you 50 prize credits. Nobody's there yet. And for 45 prize credits, you could join me on a shoot that I'm doing. Now, again, the mentored one doesn't cover any model cost. You have to pay for that yourself. You just get the use of the studio and you get use of my time. The 45 prize credits for a shoot alongside me, I would give you a few options of when I'm doing shoots and you can just come and join me for them. Effectively, you can assist me and I'll let you take a few photos as well, assuming it's one, if I'm not working for a client where I have to keep the images exclusive, we can do that on there. So those are the sort of things, and I will be setting some more challenges in the coming weeks. I'll probably set something else in March. I'm not going to set anything before then, so I might do an Easter challenge, something like that. Something over the Easter weekend, maybe, or something for March. I don't know yet. I'm working on that one. I've got a nice summer one, and I've got an Advent one planned, but I want something for the spring, which I'll get set up for you. Just to let people know, you may have realized the Dropbox folder link where you downloaded your cards from. There's a separate folder in there where I've been stamping the bingo cards so I can keep track of who's winning and who's doing what. I won't be continuing to stamp them after the 31st. So I've just been doing that until I could confirm that they're giving away the full prize and the finishing the card by the end of January. Those I'm stamping it. After that, the card's there, you can download it, you can stamp it yourself if you wish on there. So keep your own records on that. Right, now here's the other bit of exciting news. I've got a book to give away. Now, kudos goes to Gary Platt on this, who sent me this book during the week, and he sent it to me explicitly to either for one of the challenges or as something to help promote my YouTube channel. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to use it to promote the YouTube channel, and this is going to be given away. And I don't know whether you can see, it's a big book. It's huge. There's lots of really, really good stuff in here. Let me tell you a little bit about it. It's published by Dorling Kindersley, and I'm a big fan of their books. Not least of all because they've used my images on a few occasions, so I'm a big fan of theirs. But they do publish things in a really accessible style. Now, as some of you may know, I'm dyslexic. I'm a very visual person, and the way Dora and Kingsley put their books together, things are laid out in a way that's really easy to work with. It's image driven on there. Yes, there's areas of text, but it ties up with images in there to illustrate it. It's written by a guy called Tom Ang, who's an established author. He's written quite a few photography books. He's got a really, really clear style. And the other good thing is he's very, very concise with his instructions. He doesn't waffle. He just gets straight to the point. This is what you need to know about these things. And he covers it from an SLR, the DSLR point of view, and from a compact camera point of view. So wherever you are on your journey, this book will help you. It will be useful to you. So it's a fantastic reference book. When Gary sent it to me and I'd unpacked it, I was flicking through it. My wife was asking me about, oh, what's that book? What's it about? And I explained what it was all about. She said, oh, as a giveaway, oh, that's really, really good. And I said, yeah. Trouble is, I don't want to give it away now I've seen it, but no, I really am. I am going to give it away on there. So, as I say, it's clear, it's well laid out. So how are you going to be in with a chance of winning this? Well, the way we're going to do it is I'm not going to give it away until I get to 500 subscribers on my YouTube channel. This is why I said you might want to subscribe, because it's in your interest to do that, and it's in your interest to get other people to subscribe, because if it takes a year for me to get to 500, it's going to be a long time before you get the book, whoever's going to get it. And what I'm going to do, the first live stream after I hit 500 subscribers, I will do a live draw. And the way you will enter the draw is I'm going to do a very short video, and I'm going to pin to the top of my YouTube channel talking about the book, talking about the giveaway, and talking about the channel as well, promoting it. And to be in with a chance, all you have to do is comment on that video when it goes up there. It'll be obvious when it's up there. I'll let everyone know about it on the Facebook group on there. So YouTube terms and conditions will apply, which means I can't make subscribing to the channel a condition of being picked. However, I really, really would like people who put a comment there to be subscribers. I wouldn't be happy if it went to somebody who wasn't actually a subscriber, but I can't stipulate that because that's the policy. The only other thing I need to say is a big, heavy book, and it ain't cheap to post. I'll cover the postage if it's in the UK, but if you are overseas, I'm still happy to send it to you if you want to enter the draw, but you'll need to contribute for the postage and packing on it, because it's just wouldn't be cost effective for me otherwise to do that. So I hope that's okay. So please encourage people to subscribe. Let's get that count up to 500 so that we can do the draw. And I'll do a bit highlights from there as we go on. So, right, what's been going on in chat? Well, we've got Anthony saying that the camera's gone laggy. I hope things are okay. Nobody responded to that in the chat. So hopefully it's not too laggy. And that you're able to watch okay. My stats are saying excellent connection at the moment, which is odd. I had at one point the yellow banner up, but not at the point when Anthony said it had gone laggy. I don't know. That's YouTube for you folks. Right, at this point, before I get to the rest of the images, I'm going to play in my 2-minute tip for this week. And this is part 2 of the 2-minute tip from last Tuesday, which is all about converting your images to DNG. Last week, we looked at how to find the images that needed converting to DNG. This week, it's about how you do the conversion. So let me play that in now, and I'll see you shortly. In this tip, I'm going to show you how to convert RAW files into DNG. In my previous 2-minute tip, I showed you how to find all the files in your Lightroom catalogue that still need to be converted to DNG. If you haven't seen that tip already, do take a look. The option should be somewhere up there. Go and have a look at that one first. So let's assume you have found some files that you need to convert, either through the Smart Collection that I've shown you, or because there's a folder you're aware of that needs converting. So here we are in Lightroom. You can see I've got the Smart Collection I created in the last tip highlighted, and that's found 10 files that all need converting. Now I could select all of them here by just pressing Control A. Alternatively, if there was too many to do in one go, I could pick one image, right click on it and say go to folder in library, and then just do one folder's worth. In fact, in this case, there is only one folder's worth that needs converting. So I'm in the Oslo folder, I've clicked on the first one, shift clicked on the last, and that selects all of them. To convert them to DNG, I go up to the menu, select library, convert photos to DNG, and that pops up a small dialog box. I only want to convert RAW files. I want to delete the originals after conversion. There's no point having both inside the catalogue side by side. You can choose either lowercase or uppercase file extension. I prefer lowercase. Choice is entirely yours. For compatibility, I always go with the latest one. I've never had a problem with that. I keep my software up to date, so Camera Raw 11.2 and later on that. JPEG preview, take medium size, no real advantage in going for the full size as far as I can see, so I stay with the medium size on there. Then of the 3 checkboxes, we definitely want to embed the fast load data. That allows Lightroom to view the images quickly. Use lossy compression. No, 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 no. And let me say that again. No. That will throw away a whole load of information. It will make the files a lot smaller, but you're throwing away precious data, so don't use it. Embed original RAW file. There's no advantage in doing that unless you're absolutely totally paranoid. What that does is it effectively doubles the size of the DNG file for no advantage. I've never had need to go back to the original RAW file after converting to DNG, so no point in selecting it. So having done all that, I click OK, and the task kicks off. And we can see up here in the progress bar, it's moving along. I won't make you sit through all that. I'll just fast forward the video at this point, and I'll come back when it's all done. So there we are, the conversion's completed. It took about 40 seconds to complete with those 10 files, which isn't bad going at all. And so that's how you convert your files from RAW to DNG. I hope you found this 2-minute tip useful. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now. Okay, so that was the 2-minute Lightroom tip for you. And now we're in Lightroom. Let's go through your Facebook images for the week. Again, I will go through these at a reasonable pace on there. Let's go into the develop module and just start stepping through. So here we go. Peter Saltiel, let me get this big. Right, detail from a travel rug, I would think. This was his mostly red photo. I rather like this actually, Peter. I like the fact that the one line goes across there. But I'll tell you what it looked like to me. I just had this image of bloodied eyes, believe it or not, because this looked like an eye set of eyelashes and some bright red eyes to do with that. I don't know why I thought that, but that's what it reminded me of. I do like the shallow depth of field with it, going to blur on both sides. Works nicely. Linda, I think this was a worm's eye view looking up. Now, a couple of things on here. I would be tempted to, I'm assuming this was white. Well, I don't know actually because of that there. Maybe it was an off-white, that, but I would have either been tempted just to correct it to be white on there, and I would potentially, I'd think about black and white with it, maybe my standard black and white 3 on there. The other thing I would do with something like this, Linda, is not to try and keep this line through the middle, because as you can see, as you found, it's very difficult to actually do that. I would be tempted to have actually deliberately put everything on a weird angle with it. So if you do something like that, that has a slightly different aspect to it on there. So I would do something like that. Maybe it just needs a little bit more contrast, certainly the blacks, looking at the histogram on there. So that's what I would come up with. So before and after in the processing. I just wish that the before and after would also take into account the crop, but there you go, it doesn't. Moving on. Janice, the one thing I would say with this, it's slightly underexposed. We can see down here, we've got a little bit of scope for bringing that up on there. And also, I'd like to see those verticals corrected. There's a bit of distortion going on. So first of all, I would do lens correction on it. And then I would head over to the transform. And I would say, for this one, probably full should level it up nicely. Yeah, just a little something like that. Now, I don't know what camera you're using on there. It also looks a little bit, so whether you do editing on phones or on computer, but that's how you do it in Lightroom. If you were doing it on the phone, use something like Snapseed. You've got similar tools available. Now, it's still a little bit muddy, this image. So I think we can do a little bit about that. And the easiest way is actually a dehaze on it. You see how it's bringing the colours in. Still need to bring that exposure up a little bit, and maybe a little bit on the contrast and the clarity on there. And now, if I hit the vibrance up a little bit, we've got that. So we've gone from there to there with it. Now on that. This one, again, thank you for submitting it, Janice. It's a little bit underexposed, to say the least. If you look at the histogram, and we looked at histograms a couple of shows ago, this used your histogram to try and make sure that you can see here everything's in the dual grays, where we would expect the bright colours of the sky to be higher up. There, that's your sky. That blue area, it should be right up there. So we could bring that right up, and that's looking a lot better just by doing that. Let's transform that and get the verticals right. I've used auto, and then I would also, I'd add some vibrance in there, and I'd probably use a little bit of dehaze just to darken the sky, and that would give me something along those lines with it. Now, the subject, I think you'd said it was pub. It looks to me like some form of old church or monastery type building on there. Interesting structure. I'm not sure it's the best angle for photographing it though, but then I wasn't there. I don't know what the other options are with it, but it's certainly a good record shot on there. But think more about getting the exposure right in camera for that. Right, come on. It's just sitting on loading. Right, Peter. Right, a couple of things on here. Again, the sky's a bit muddy. With that, I would use a bit of dehaze to try and get the blue sky back in there. Bit of shadows on there. Maybe a touch of exposure, and then bring back the highlights. Now, unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do to save this area down here with it. One of the things you could have done, which might have helped alleviate that, would be the composition. And that is just to stick everything on the diagonal, because that then brings that more down to the bottom. That. I think that might be a stronger composition. Now, the other thing to think about, and it's difficult to say, is where do you focus on something like this? What's your subject? Is the subject the lamp at the top, or is it the pictures on there and the things attached to the lamppost? I'm not sure with this which it should be on it. I would try focusing on the lamp and about a third of the way up there as well, and just try and see what works with it. But I'd like to see that more on the diagonal, I think. Gary, don't know whether you're watching tonight, bridge photo. This has had a pseudo HDR applied to it, and I think it's gone a little bit too far with that effect. It's lost the naturalness to it. Too much sort of texture on there. Can we dial it back? I don't know that we can. Do a little bit on there, maybe bring a little bit of the clarity back. That brings it more to what it was. I know you did this as part of the bingo challenge and you were just looking for a bridge, but as a subject goes, it doesn't really do much for me, I'm afraid. Would I photograph it differently? I think what I would probably do with something like this is I'd try and get my camera in down low by the water there. That might mean paddling a little bit, but just try and get the water coming under the bridge to show it a little bit better as a bridge on that. So that's my suggestions on there. Amanda, nice idea for messy delivery bags. The one thing I'd say here, it's underexposed. That exposure compensation that we've talked about on previous live streams really needs to come up. Basically, this is a lot of white stuff. So the same principles as photographing snow. If you haven't seen the snow live stream, have a look at that, and I talk about histograms and exposure compensation on that particular live stream. Terry, great shot of the running dog on there. It just works nicely. Where's the focus point? Difficult to tell. Hopefully it's on the eyes with it, but the shallow depth of field works well. Again, you've got the same problem as Peter. Your watermark, I don't think it's doing you any favors, and it's just white. So a lot of the time, if you're on a very light background, it completely disappears. And so with Peter's, oh, I cropped it, never mind. Here's, you could only see it over the lamppost. Right, Richard, love this shot, negative space. It's not what I would think of as negative space, but I'm accepting it as such because you've got this empty area over here, and all these trains and no passengers at the moment. Euston Station with next to nobody there. Incredible, isn't it? I love the shot. I like the idea that the chap's on the 1/3 line with it. So great shot. David, I know you struggled with this one, trying to get the eye, trying to do it as a self-portrait. I think you very, very tricky to do, especially using a flash for it on there. I can't remember what your exposure was, but I think it was quite a long exposure. So you were using a torch rather than a flash. You might be better to use a speed light, to use a flash rather than a torch for illumination on it. And I think the it's slightly out of focus, unfortunately. Now that's because you get a very, very shallow depth of field with macro, and the slightest bit of camera movement, I don't know whether you were on tripod or not, but you are likely to be moving. So if I was doing somebody's eye shot, one of the things I would do is I would get them to sit down with a chair with a headrest like I've got and push their head back on there. Obviously this is a rocking chair, but a chair that doesn't, such that their head's not going to go anywhere, or to sit against the wall with their head back, because then if you try to have them standing there, the slightest bit of swaying will take you out of focus with it. So that would be my suggestion on there. Like your car parts one, again, nice one, just needs a little bit on the shadows with it, just for this area here. And the other thing is I would have tried to move the handbook over just enough to get the sea of citron in there. But other than that, all works fine. Linda was asking about quirky angles on this, whether it was better with just the lamppost or just the fountain. No, Linda, I like both on there. Sky is a little overexposed. Now, I don't know whether you shoot raw, Linda. If you are shooting raw, that level of overexposure, you'd be able to pull back those highlights. I can bring it back so much, but not, I've got most of it back over here, but I've lost detail in those areas on there. And then you can bring the shadows up onto that. We can then add a little bit of dehaze, bit of clarity to it, and I think a bit more on the shadows. In fact, I'm going to bring the exposure up and then bring those highlights down further. I can't risk that anymore on the highlights. So it's about the best I could do with that to give that sort of effect. Now, in Snapseed, you probably get more detail out, but that's still a little bit overexposed there. So if anything, dial back your exposure compensation just a little bit more on that. So that one works nicely. Like this one from Peter Stanford, the matter of perspective and the fact that the Satsuma, the tangerine, from 1.2. Now, the one thing I have to say about this, Peter, is you've done very well not to get a reflection of the camera in the mirror. So I suspect there's some Photoshop trickery going on with this to achieve that. My guess is that you, I don't know, Photoshop the mirror in. I don't know. There's something odd with it. I can't quite work it out, but well done anyway. The fact that I can't work it out means it's a good. You've done really well with it. It's got a bit of reflection though, because a true reflection, because it's out of focus. Oh, I don't know how you've done it, Peter. I give up. Right, Amanda, a tree one. Yeah, this is a worm's eye view, slightly underexposed again, but this time what we can do is we can bring the exposure up, bring the shadows up to get that detail in there, bring up the clarity and the texture on it, and we can see we're getting somewhere with this, and on the dehaze as well, and then maybe the saturation on the blue. Just bringing that up, and luminance on the blue down, and we've got an interesting sort of shot there. Now, a couple of things with this. When you're doing these sort of worm's eye view shots up the tree, again, you've seen me tilt things and have the trunk coming in from the corner before. But if you don't want to do that, one of the things you can do is come much closer into the tree, so that this base section appears a lot wider across the bottom of the image, and it effectively gives you, I'm going to fake this just to try and show you. I don't know whether I can do it too much on here. And a Y offset, you end up with something more looking like that at the bottom, so that you're looking more up. You've got like converging lines coming in on it. So think about doing that, and the easiest way to do it is just take the camera closer to the tree as you point up with it. So that's my suggestion on there. Lovely sunset here, Peter. I would just was that one we looked at earlier? I'm not sure. I would just bring the shadows up a little bit on there. So I do it again, bring the exposure up and then bring the highlights down to compensate. So we end up something like that. Now it's a little bit grainy on there. We can sort that with a little bit of denoise. Actually, I'm just going to use one of my presets. It's easier. On here, noise reduction, yeah, some good noise reduction, and that sort of sorts that one out for you. So before and after, I think just that little bit of detail brought in there will help with that. Moving on. Rainbow colour water. Not convinced by the angle on this one, Laura. I know you're attempting the quirky angle, but I'm not quite sure it worked with that, and I'm not sure what I can do about that one. Yeah, I would try. I don't know whether you could get down to the bottom here and shoot up the waterfall with it on there, whether that would have worked. But it just feels a little unsettling, the angle, to me on that. Right, Rebecca. Now, I've already gone through Anthony's shot of this, and what you've achieved is the thing that Anthony didn't, which was to get rid of the car. But basically, the same settings that we did on Anthony's image would work on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy over the settings from Anthony's. So if I go here, there, and that's Anthony's shot. Develop module with that. That was what it came out with afterwards. Let me put that up there, move along, find yours on there, and I go previous, I can pull in the same settings. Now, okay, the correction's not perfect on that. I just need to go back here, back to Facebook, back to develop, just so that I'm in the right place later. Now, I think that's the transform that's messed it up. So let's just update. Yeah, that would be better. That would be it. So now we can see we've got the shot. Now I don't know what you used camera-wise on here. Because Facebook will have thrown away all that detail. Yep, always does. So I would say similar sort of things, just needs a little bit more on the exposure compensation with this. So just bring that up, maybe on the shadows a little bit. But the same principles, the same thing I talked about with Anthony's shot applies to yours, except you did the right thing and got the car out of the shot on there. No, good attempt from both of you, well done. Let's move on. Linda, I love the dog on here. I like the crop on it, just focusing on the face. I'm it's a shame about this white area behind, because it does kind of draw the eye on there. I don't know whether it would have been possible to shoot it from a different angle, or even just move it further on the fake grass to try and eliminate that from the shot. David, right, smoke patterns. I can't tell you which live stream it is, but I've got an entire live stream that talks about techniques for smoke patterns. You were talking about how you lit it from, I think, from below, and what that's caused is the taper, the joystick to blow out. Now, the trick with them is keep the joystick vertical, light it, let the smoke just come up as a single thing. And the way you illuminate it for the shot is typically 90 degrees across, and then that does the best thing. Now, the trick is also to baffle it by, if you've got a speed light, you've got an off-camera flash, put a bit of black card either side of it, so it has to just come out in a straight line, just hit the smoke on there. But have a look at that live stream, which will tell you the techniques involved, and it shows you me doing it live on there. So a good attempt, but I think the lighting needs to be different for it to work. You've done the right thing with playing around with the white balance to introduce colour. There are other ways to do it in Photoshop as well. You can put an overlay, you can put a colour overlay on there and use the masking tools, the overlay mask to say something like overlay or colour and things like that, and just to be able to change the colours on there that way. So again, talked about in the other live stream. Peter, one of your strongest images here, the bridge of the violin, I presume, on there. Really nice shot, well put together with it. Nice concept for the topic of bridge as well. You've got your point of focus here. I would have been tempted just to come around very slightly, so I'm shooting a bit more along, which will give me a shallower depth of field, but then to be able to focus more on the bridge there. So just shooting a little bit more along, so these the strings actually become a lead in directly from the corner. They're almost there, but I like to shoot more along them to it. I showed a couple of weeks back a chap looking along a guitar, so think about that sort of approach with it, but lovely shot. Nice one here. The shame we've lost a bit of detail in the yellow, and I'm gonna put that down to Facebook and their compression algorithms, just to show that it's nice. Everything else is lovely and sharp, and just completely framing in on the middle of the flower has worked well on that shot. Nice one, Neil. Footprint, but it's underexposed. Again, refer you back to exposure compensation necessary. It should be up a little bit, and then if we add a bit of contrast to it and maybe a bit of clarity, you'd end up with that. So before and after, those would be the tweaks I would make on there. John, really like this one. Person skipping, nice street shot on there, nice black and white conversion, well done. Bob, this shot of the moon, right, let me just say a couple of things. This is beautifully sharp. I know you focus stacked. I'm just a little bit surprised that you had to focus stack on there, because at that distance, okay, I know the moon's big, but you should find that everything is within your depth of field. It's at infinity. So I'm a bit surprised that you had to focus stack it. For anyone, we're coming up to a full moon, 28th, which is what, tomorrow? If we get a clear sky and you want to have a go at it, let me just give you the settings for photographing the moon. It's dead easy on it. Manual mode on your camera. f8. Set your ISO and your shutter speed to be the same. So in other words, f8, ISO 100, 100th of a second, and the moon will be correctly exposed. It won't get blown out. Now you have to do it in manual mode because you end up with so much black around it that the auto exposure will go, oh, all this black, let's try and make it mid-grey, which causes the moon to be overexposed and you just get a white disk. So your settings are f8, ISO 100, 100th of a second. But remember that, keep the ISO and the shutter speed the same. So if you are shooting with, say, a 400mm lens and you are hand holding, then go to ISO 400 and 400th of a second. And that way you can hand hold it. So those are the settings. Have a go at that tomorrow night if you've got clear skies. Post your results in the Facebook group. It'd be nice to see them, folks. But here's a great image. It's just a great image from Bob that he's achieved here. Another interesting shot from Bernard on this. Frozen Assets, he called it. It's a 50p piece in an ice cube. Nice idea, well executed. I'd be tempted to bring that in maybe a little bit tighter on that side with it. I don't know, a little bit further out. Yeah, something like that on there, with that one. Again, another nice one, David, the dog. It's just, I keep wanting to say it's a little bit underexposed, but actually I'm not sure it is. I like the fact that it's in the shadows, but I'm not sure about the black line here. I'd like to see a little bit more of what this is about, but if it's only going to be totally underexposed, I don't know. Maybe more of the scene that the dog's looking at with it, but it is nice. What happens if I lose that? I just bring that in to about there, like that. Yeah, it's a little bit tight on the edge of it. Just seeing what, yeah, I bring that down and that up, and then a little bit. Oh, I don't know. No, I do quite like the original on there. It's one of those I'd be playing around with it a little bit more. I know you only managed to get a couple of shots before the battery failed on that, but it's the sort of thing just to play around with a bit more on there, I think. Moral of the story, have a spare battery. Right. Nice one, Neil. I'd be tempted to shoot more along the line of figures with it. Is it a little bit underexposed as well? Maybe just a couple of thirds on there. I would still focus on the night as you did, but I'd like to see a little bit more either side along that line of figures just going off into the distance. So you can have your focus point here. You just bring your camera round a little bit so it comes round this side and round that way, and shoot in coming across that way. And you see the queen and the king in the shot as well, but out of focus with that. Another board game shot. I like the concept of this, and well done, Peter, for the black background. My question is, what's your point of focus? What is it that we're meant to be looking at here? And my eye is automatically drawn to this player piece, which is Darth Maul and his double-sided lightsaber. So I would have said that should be your point of focus, because at the moment, point of focus is on this one, but I think that's the more interesting figure to focus on with it, especially as it's on the 1/3 line as well. So I'd have been tempted to bring him forward just to the edge of the card, to the place, so it's maybe just on the edge of the pass go. Bring the figure here onto Nabu, and then focus on him, and that's what I would do with it. What a great shot this is, Adam. I know that the going out that shot was a bit of a disaster for you, with having fallen and bruised your side and broken your lens in the snow. I feel kind of guilty because you were going out to do one of my challenges. I want to show this one full screen, and I mean full, I really do mean full screen on there, because it's such a cracking shot on here. And the reason I want to talk about this one is because it ticks all the boxes and all the rules of composition on here, and there's a lot we can learn for this image. With a landscape shot, and this is a form of landscape, a snowscape, we want the eye to go on a journey in, and let's look at how this works. We've got this lead in from the two edges of the corner. Now this is the sort of thing I was looking for with that tree, but you've got the two edges leading in. We've got the family walking together here. That's our point of focus, and it's on the 1/3 line, the perfect place. We've got an S shape, which is always a strong compositional element in the shot. We've got the horizon not far off the 1/3 line with there. It just really ticks all the right boxes on here. And Adam, I would say incredibly well done. You said it's the only shot you managed to get when you went out. Well, I would say it's a shot worth having. Perhaps not worth having a bruised side and a broken lens for, but at least you got a great shot from it. And I'm half tempted to add a bit of clarity to it, but you know what? I don't think it needs it. I think it's fine as it is on there. Right, how would it, oh, not quite at the end. Let's go back to this one. Won't be far off now. Now this one, Laura's Bingo Light Trails one, I'm just going to whack up the exposure so we can see what's going on behind. I'm assuming that's Richard writing bingo in there. Now, one of the things with this, if you'd exposed for the background, you'd have still got there. You need to underexpose. You can see I've gone up by 3 stops and it's still underexposed to something like that. I would have gone, yeah, about 3 stops extra on there. Well, the one thing you can then do is you've got this sodium glow there. We can get rid of that, and we can bring everything back to white on there. And I would have done something like that with it. Maybe just not the shadows, it's the blacks I need to just take down. Unfortunately, we've got noise here because I've had to bring everything up. But if you'd exposed it for that, you see, it doesn't matter that the word bingo is overexposed. It's supposed to be with something like that. So try that technique again if we get any more snow, and get Richard out there again with the torch on that, but then colour correct it in post-production. This was Peter's 4 a.m. Cup of tea, which he said in the chat he was up for 6 o'clock work. Ouch on there. Love the lighting on it, Peter. The fact that you've isolated it using, well, whatever method you've used, painting with light perhaps to do it. I'm not sure, but it's worked on there. I really like that. Anything with a cup of tea in is good in my book. Peter, again, underexposed. We bring that up, bring the contrast up, bring the clarity up on there, and a little bit on the dehaze as well we'll give that. So before and after on there. Robin, I love this one. I love the camera move with it, the twirl of the camera as you take the shot. Now, I bet that you were aiming to get the center point on the center point of the flower. And you know what? I don't think it matters with it that it's not. I like the fact that it's off center with it. I'd like to see one with it in the center and see what it looks like. But the fact that it is off center, I think really works with it. I'm sure you probably did several versions of this, and I'd be interested to know whether you did get one with it in the center and whether you therefore then rejected it over the off center one. But I think it really works. And I just wanted to highlight that one and say absolutely well done with it on there. Right, John, I wanted to talk about this shot. You're saying the problem is that because they were wearing white, the face is overexposed. Now, the solution to this is where it's important to shoot in RAW rather than in JPEG, because there's not a lot you can do to bring that back with a JPEG file. If you shot that in RAW, use a little bit of exposure compensation to make sure it didn't completely blow out by checking the back of your camera and the histogram, as we talked about 2 weeks ago with the snow one, then that could have been adjusted in post-production. Yes, the other things might have been a little bit underexposed, but you could have pulled that back and then brought the shadows up a little bit to compensate, and you would have saved it that way. And that's the only way you could have done that, because there's nothing at all I can do to save it. So if I go here, if I bring my exposure all the way down, can you see there's absolutely no detail in there. It's just going all down as grey as a complete en masse on there with it. It's not pulling out any detail. Even with the highlights, there's nothing there to pull out. And that's basically because you're shooting with JPEG. So I encourage you, start shooting RAW, maybe RAW plus JPEG on there. I think on a fairly recent live stream, I thought I covered the reasons for shooting RAW. I can't remember. This is why we need that index, folks, on there. I'll try and get that sorted over the next few weeks on it. But have a look at shooting RAW, I think is your answer, John, on that. And Robin, really interesting, this ice patterns. I'm assuming it's a frozen pond or something, or a puddle. Intrigued at what the S shape actually is, but yeah, lovely capture, well spotted and well captured on there. Again, well exposed. There's a little bit of specular highlights overexposed, but not much, and a little bit down here, which I'm putting down to Facebook, as you can see how blocky that is. That's a Facebook underexposed on there. Another one of John's. Right, you've got these overexposed corners on there. I wouldn't start this far forward with it. I would have zoomed in. I'm going to keep the aspect ratio, or either probably zoomed in, moved in with my feet on here, and started the shot a little bit further in, so that if I'd have gone in and started shooting at about, or maybe out just a fraction on there, to something like that, I think is a far better shot than the other with the bright edge. I've still got a little bit of a bright edge there. I didn't manage to frame that properly, but something like that I think is a much better shot with it. So go with that. And have we got to the end? Yep, that was the last one. So let's have a look what's been going on in chat while I've been in here. Oops. And let me have a look on my screen. Right, okay. Let's see. John Bond, family Pam shots. Yeah, DNG is your raw file, John, for your palm on there. So shoot that. Again, I'd encourage you to use your larger camera because the sensor's too small in there. That's what's holding you back at the moment with your photography, is shooting with that camera on there. Yeah, resting. Right. Peter saying the Satsuma was a true reflection. Camera was just above the edge of the mirror, and then he had a black cloth draped. Ah, yeah, clipping a black cloth to the shirt, that old trick. Okay, yeah, understand how that was done now. And he did Photoshop some of the stuff on out in Photoshop. Right. Allium didn't want to put it in the center, put it on the third on purpose. Good. Quite difficult to achieve, I can't imagine. Yeah, as I said, I think it was the right decision to put that in the center on there. Right, and we're just about to finish on this, so that's the end of all that on here. So let's just wrap up. Sorry, David, that we've gone beyond your attention span. Hopefully you'll come back and see the last bit, but it's only a wrap up at this point. Thanks for watching, everyone. Do subscribe, comment and like. And thanks for those who've bought me a cuppa, especially this week to Alison Backen on there. On that. On Sunday, I'm going to be talking about sunsets and sunrises. And if you've got any images you want me to look at next week, email them to feedback@ians-studio.co.uk or post them to the Facebook group, preferably email because those get priority. And off we go then. Thanks for watching. Keep making great photos, and I will see you next week. Bye for now. Oh, wrong one.